why are fragrances starting to smell so similar to Sometimes you will find dishonest people, but that's just the world that we live in. Welcome back, guys, to another video. In today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different where we talk about overconsumption in the fragrance community, and I thought it'd be an interesting topic since I did recently do a video about buying fragrances in this economy, which was quite popular amongst you guys. And let's face it, I think a lot of us tend to, you know, collect quite a few bottles, and I want to ask you guys, out of interest, how many bottles do you have in your collection? Do you have a big collection? Do you have a small collection? I think most of us buy based on our heart's desires or whatever money we have sitting on our bank account. And I think you know, we're all adults here, we can spend our money how we like, and therefore there isn't a right or wrong answer. Neither is there a collection too big or too small. But I do find it interesting because a lot of you guys tend to comment, you know, this is how many bottles I have, you know, I'm trying to go through it, and overconsumption seems to be a bit of a trend within the fragrance community. So without further ado, we'll just jump straight into it. So the first thing that I want to highlight is the fact that I am very much guilty of this. By the way, I am a willing participant within this overconsumption fragrance type of issue, and that's been going on for however many years I've been into fragrances. And you know, I'm not perfect, but the thing is, like, I have slowed down a lot within, I would say, the past 4 or 5 years. Some 7 or 8 years ago, I did used to blind buy. I used to buy quite a lot of fragrances whenever I did get like a bonus through work, or you know, if I thought I did really well, I would treat myself to a fragrance. I think that's quite normal, and I think you guys will definitely be able to relate with that. But then over time, I did realize that I was kind of you know, increasing my collection to the point where not so much that I wasn't using the fragrances, but more so I had pretty much nearly every fragrance that I ever wanted. And not that it became less interesting, but I thought to myself, is there really any point in adding more and more to my collection? So since then, I've approached collecting or curating fragrances in a very different approach. I haven't blind bought in years. I have a massive amount of samples, which I feature a lot on the channel. Rather than buying the bottles, or rather being gifted the bottles, I do tend to sample a lot of the time, which I think sometimes people tend to forget. I've found that when I reached about 80 bottles within my collection, which by the way, for normal people is just absolutely diabolical, and this is where I say I'm not a perfect person when it comes to this, it started to level out because, you know, I took myself out of social media. As you guys know, I had a break on YouTube, and that was really important for me because it did give me a lot of clarity around how big my collection was. And I thought to myself, comparing myself to another person who has, say, 1,000 bottles in their collection, why am I comparing myself to that person when I equally love, you know, the 80 bottles that I have in my collection because I've curated them over years, to somebody who has 1,000 that might not like each individual fragrance. So that's how my overconsumption started to change, where I did become more and more aware of what I was buying. And also I did have a bit of a career change, and my disposable income when it came to perfume purchases wasn't as large, and equally I was looking to kind of you know, put my money into different things that I thought were more important. So anyway, I just thought I would highlight that to begin with, and we'll just jump into a few videos, mainly from TikTok, to be honest, which I thought were quite funny. I mean, we're going to keep this quite light and unserious, to be honest, so we'll just jump into it.
Collection. I want to preface this by saying I am a perfume reviewer. This is part of my job. So starting over here, this is my body mist collection. There's some more in my bathroom as well, and there's some more over on the other side right over here as well. This is my celebrity perfume corner. So as you can see, we have Ariana Grande, we have Britney Spears. It's all out of sorts right now, but there's Sabrina Carpenter, Billie Eilish.
So I just want to kind of interrupt the video here because I do quite like the fact that she's honest. She's honest to herself. She's not lying to herself in the fact that she does have an overconsumption issue when it comes to fragrances and body sprays, which we can clearly see here. Now, I find it really funny because a lot of you guys, I think you'll be able to relate with me when it comes to this, but we all kind of curate in different ways. So what I've noticed so far with this lady in particular is, you know, with the celebrity fragrances, for example, she literally has every flanker of the fantasy, you know, from Britney Spears, which to me comes across more like collector as opposed to curator. So it's almost as if she wants one of each one that has ever been released, which I find quite interesting. And even like when you pan up, you do start to see, again, with the other celebrity fragrances like the Nirvana ones, she has one of every single one that's probably been released. So I find it interesting. And remember, just keep in mind, guys, she did say it was to do with her job being, you know, a fragrance content creator. So we'll keep watching.
Eilish. Okay, so that's Nicki Minaj. We've got Katy Perry. Elizabeth and James. So that's Mary-Kate and Ashley. Jennifer Lopez. All of the Paris Hiltons. And then here is a lot of my niche luxury. So many Mind Games, Love Kiali, we've got Born to Stand Out, Heretic, Toka. Up here is a mix of affordable perfumes and then perfumes that you can find at Sephora, and then also the niche luxury, which is Wilhelm. Over here, I'm in the middle of organizing, so like this stuff shouldn't be down here. This is my Arab perfume corner, so that's the reason why this stuff shouldn't be down here. So these are all like affordable Arab fragrances that I really, really like. I've got more of them, but they're down here in these cabinets.
What I do like about her is that she does have quite a mix of like different affordable ones and then more expensive niche ones, which I think is always a good thing, because let's face it, we're not always going to wear like the most expensive fragrance on like a daily basis. I mean, I do sometimes, I'll be honest, like if I need a little bit of a pick-me-up, I'm going to wear my nice niche fragrance. But in this case, I mean, like say if you're going to the gym or if you're just going out and about, you're not going to be wearing like a super incredible fragrance. So I think that's good of her, obviously having like a mix of different things. So we'll just keep watching.
But this is all the ones that I would say I wear most often. And then we've got more that you can find at Sephora. So we've got 5 Cents in the back, Love Shack Fancy, a bunch of designer perfumes. Future Society really slept on brand. And then a ton of Le Monde Gourmand. You've got tons of Fleur. This is a ton more that you can find at Sephora. Like affordable Okja up at the top, Ellis Brooklyn. These are all skin scents minus the Match Made in Heaven. These are all skin scents that I really, really love. And then over here, we've got some more like super affordable perfumes. So we've got the Fleur Hair and Body Mists. We've got Aquilina. We have Coco and Rose. A bunch of affordable Target brands, and then stuff.
The only thing that I will say, and I don't know if you guys have noticed it in this particular video, and this is no shade by the way, I just found it interesting, like with these affordable fragrances that she has, like the Fleur ones, the Sephora ones, and even these other ones that I haven't come across before, what I've noticed is that they're practically full. As in, it doesn't seem like she uses them. So my question is like when you're collecting all of the different ones, so I get, you know, if you are a collector per se, like the Britney Spears ones, I get it, you want one of each one that has ever been released, like just as almost like a niche collectory type of thing. But then my question is for the other ones, like, you know, are you actually using all of them, or are you, do you only gravitate towards one? Is there really a purpose to having all 7, 8 of them in your collection, alongside all of these other brands as well? This is the only thing that I'm a little bit unsure of, and this is where maybe we differ a little bit, where, you know, I will only really have fragrances in my collection that I truly love, as opposed to like multiples of different ones within all of the collections. But anyway, we'll keep watching.
J Max, Pacifica, this is all stuff that shouldn't be here. I'm organizing that. It's like travel sizes and samples that I want to use up. We've got down here, we've got my cute little minis, and then we've got like all these travel sizes right here. We've got a Missy body oil and a Sunfruit body oil, Maker travel sizes in the back. I also have a section in my room that is just filled with a bunch of perfumes that I am wanting to film reviews of or film content with, so they're like in a pile over like right there, like far away from me, and it's a disaster.
Right, so we'll end it at this, because what I did really like about her, and I always like recommend this to everyone, it's the samples, guys. Keep those bloody travel size sizes, keep the smaller samples, because you never know when they'll come in handy. And let's face it, you're not always going to splurge for like you know, a bigger, more expensive bottle. Sometimes by having those travel sizes, you really get to experience the fragrance while saving a bit of money as well, and not, like, I guess, over consuming as much. So yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting video. I just thought I'd highlight it because I like, you know, I liked her honesty, and I like the fact that, you know, she does collect maybe in a bit of a different way to what I do. So anyway, we'll just jump into another one. Guys, this really tickled me because I guess with some of the TikTok ones, even though it is overconsumption, let's be completely real here, because, you know, when you see these vast collections, you do think to yourself, oh my goodness, are you ever going to be able to go through any of them? But this one was hilarious to me. I don't know why I found it so funny, but I'll just play it for you guys. Honestly, sometimes when, and I know a lot of you guys will be able to relate as well, there is the little joys in life when it comes to, you know, having like a curated collection of fragrances, because really it is like going into a fragrance store. Like, you have your own little fragrance store filled with absolute beauties that you genuinely love. I guess, like, from a perspective standpoint, if you do have so many different, you know, body sprays, fragrances, body oils, etc., that actually beat like a conventional fragrance store, I think that's when you kind of need to reel it back a little bit and say to yourself, is this actually healthy? You know, is this, you know, overconsumption? Because it definitely is. Do I really need that many fragrances in my collection? And this is where I guess the numbers thing kind of comes into play. Not that I think there is technically like a right amount of fragrances to have within a collection, but when you're starting to beat fragrance stores with the quantity of fragrances they have on display, I think that's when you need to question it a little bit. So anyway, that one was a bit more fun. I did find it quite funny because there are times when I spray myself and I think to myself, oh my goodness, like, I literally have like a small little tiny fragrance store in my shelf just full of these beautiful fragrances. But anyway, we'll just go into a bit more of a serious video here.
If you've got a decent sized collection and you don't have any themes, direction for it, or even opinions on each one, then you might just be consuming instead of collecting. Now, I'm not your dad, so I'm not going to tell you what to do, and there's no right or wrong way to collect. But if you want to be serious about collecting fragrances, then my tip is to not just buy them for the sake of buying them and keeping up with hype and trends. Instead, let your personality shine through in your collection by having a really good reason why you're buying each one.
You know, I really like this guy. I've come across him on Instagram and on TikTok, and I've seen him everywhere. I think he's quite a big fragrance content creator, and I think he owns his own fragrance brand as well. And I like the fact that he started the video by saying, I'm not your dad, I'm not here to tell you kind of what to do. And it is the case, because we're all adults, we can do what we want, really. But what I found interesting is the way he approaches it is very similar to the way I approach it, where is it that you're just collecting for the sake of collecting, where, you know, for example, that woman had those multiple fantasy flankers from Britney Spears? Or are you basing your collection on things that you truly absolutely love, that are individually tailored to you? So I guess this is where, you know, the samples really come into play, where if you do start, you know, wanting to buy fragrances, and if you want to start building out your collection and without becoming overconsumption, can you just go through the samples first and see which ones you truly love? And this is going to topics like blind buying, for example, which I will be doing a separate video surrounding that. I think that's a bit of a controversial subject. Some people, I think a lot of people do like to blind buy a lot, but this is where you have to think, right, am I adding things to my collection just for the sake of having it because it's maybe overhyped in the community, or am I buying it for the sake of individuality and will it kind of suit my personality? So this is where I think people are a bit divided in the community. There is one side of the community that do buy based on trends, that buy based on, you know, flankers and collections that come out, and then you do have the other side of the community where people buy based on actually, you know, really loving those specific fragrances and wouldn't buy any others from that specific collection, or any other flankers, etc. So you kind of have like a mixture of both. Some people sit in the middle, so I guess for you guys, comment down below, where do you think you sit when it comes to this? So let's watch this video, because I find it really interesting how trends evolve over in different industries, and I tend to find overconsumption is sometimes rooted in trends, what people find on social media, what people are talking about constantly, and that's where you start to see the collections become quite centered to maybe fragrances that are spoken about frequently. So we'll just go into what this woman predicts fragrances will be like in 2025.
Perfume trend predictions for 2025. As somebody who's studying perfumery and a collector with hundreds of bottles, these are my fragrance trend predictions for the upcoming year. Number one, I don't think gourmands are going anywhere. 2024 was the year for gourmand. We saw some incredible viral gourmand fragrances in 2024. Bianco Latte, Devotion, Prom Couture, Yum Bougie Marshmallow, Vanilla Candy Rock Sugar, Cirque du Soleil, the list goes on. And I don't think gourmands are going anywhere in 2025, even though everybody's saying we're sick of gourmands. 2025 is the year where gourmands take a back seat. I humbly disagree. I do think we're gonna see gourmands in a new light. I think brands are gonna start reinventing the wheel when it comes to gourmands, and we're gonna see them in a very creative and unique way.
So I'll just stop it there, because I find it interesting, the fact that she's brought up gourmand fragrances, and she's totally right, by the way. Like, a lot of the fragrances within, I would say, the last 2 or 3 years have been quite gourmand centered, and I think that's mainly down to, again, perfume TikTok, trends that are, kind of floating around in the industry. So I do think she has a point there. And, I think brands specifically do start to catch onto these trends, whether that's like a Bianca Latte, seeing how well that fragrance performed, and then creating a fragrance based around, very similar notes, or, a very similar olfactory profile. And that is when the trend continues, and that's where I guess the overconsumption increases as well. What I will say though, and I find it really funny when she mentions this, like, people are sick of sometimes seeing those trends. Like, I get people in my comments as well. A lot of you guys mention, I'm sick of seeing this, and I totally get it. Coming from somebody who enjoys all different types of olfactive profiles, I completely get it, and I do agree with you guys. Like, there are some times when I think, why are fragrances starting to smell so similar to each other, like all of the newer launches? And I think that's when we kind of need to reel it back a little bit and think to ourselves, right, are we just consuming the same types of fragrances for the sake of it being trendy, or for the sake of it being popular? And I guess that's where a lot of fragrance content creators, including myself, sometimes we do start featuring very similar fragrances. But we have to think to ourselves, like, a lot of these content creators, including myself, within these spaces, we are offered fragrances that are trend led. So as a result, when you have more and more of these types of people including these types of fragrances, whether that's in reviews, whether that's in long form, short form type of videos, as a result, the main populace will start buying more of these fragrances, and that's when the overconsumption kind of continues. So it's this non-stop cycle, and I think the interesting thing about this is I think a lot of people assume that this is a very new thing, and I don't think it necessarily is. Maybe with social media it is, but a lot of these trends within the fragrance community, they've lasted over years, and I mean decades. I mean, for example, like in the 90s, we had a really big resurgence of chypre fragrances. In the 2000s, there was a lot more focus on maybe fresher type of fragrances, and even going into more molecular based, you have eccentric molecules, for example, and the use of more synthetic type of materials. So as a result, like, I think a lot of the olfactive profiles, they will be always recycled throughout the years. There'll be one trend that goes on within the fragrance community, say 5 to 10 years ago, and then there'll be a resurgence of it. You guys can only watch my recent cherry video that I did. That was really interesting, because back some years ago now, cherry was very, very popular. So you had the launch of Lush Cherry, you had all of these other fragrance brands as well, kind of again going onto the bandwagon of what was popular, what was trending within consumers. and they were releasing a lot of cherry-based fragrances. And now that took a stop for, I would say, like 2 or 3 years, and then there was a resurgence of cherry. So, you know, these things are always cycles, and they're always cycles based on consumerism. And this is where maybe the overconsumption comes into play, where people are buying into these trends for the sake of buying these fragrances which are a bit more popular. So anyway, that's like a little bit of a roundup when it comes to that subject. I just thought you guys would find it interesting. We'll just round up this video with like a couple more videos, and then yeah, we'll just have our final thoughts.
I am anti-overconsumption when it comes to fragrances, and I know you might be looking at the collection behind me thinking I'm a hypocrite, but I'm a fragrance reviewer. So as my channel has grown, people who follow me want to send me fragrances, brands want to send me fragrances, and I'm more than happy to give my honest opinion and review for my audience. But truth be told, the best, most cost-effective way to navigate this niche is through samples, decants, and trying things for free on your skin at the store. All right. And then when you really find something you love, you go buy it on a discount site when it's on sale. And I do my best on my page to let y'all know whenever there's any fragrance sales happening. Like right now, there's one for Tom Ford, Versace, and Waj. I have the link for it in my bio, but just know it's an affiliate link. So buy where you feel the most comfortable. But truthfully, I think a lot of people get sucked into, because they're watching a lot of fragrance content, right? They get sucked into wanting the newest things, right? Because there's videos of, oh, this is the best, this is the sexiest, and a lot of people want to be desirable, and they buy these things.
Do you know what? I absolutely love her approach. And to be fair, I have come across her a couple of times, and I love the way she talks, because it's a very common sense type of approach, right? And it's exactly like what she said. First of all, guys, use those samples. Get them to your advantage, spray in store if you can, and do it again and again and again, just so you know 100%, okay, I'm willing to spend my money on this particular fragrance. What I also love about, you know, what she's just said as well is, again, this is the comparison is the thief of joy, and in this case, the thief of your money, because the case is, like, a lot of us content creators, you know, sometimes, you know, some of us get a lot more fragrances sent to us than others. I'm very, very picky when it comes to different brands approaching me. I'm only a tiny channel, by the way, so who am I to say, oh, you know, look at me, I'm getting all of these, you know, fragrance brands contacting me. But the ones that I do choose, you know, to send me bottles, I have been buying them for years, or I know them very well, or I know that I will absolutely love those fragrances. So I think sometimes when people are watching most of these fragrance content creators or fragrance influencers, they automatically compare themselves to these people. And this is where you guys need to understand, like, you know, some people have half of their collections made up by, you know, fragrance brands sending them these particular bottles. And now that's not to say, by the way, that these influencers or these content creators are dishonest, which I will probably do like another video surrounding this. It just means that they might have a lot more bottles in their collection and they didn't need to spend as much money buying these fragrances. So this is where, again, you don't need to compare yourself. You need to kind of take a little bit more of a practical, common sense, logical type of approach and think, oh, did this person get sent this bottle? Did they actually buy this bottle? Am I comparing my collection to somebody who does this as a hobby and sometimes gets money from it? And again, I will probably talk about this in that separate video, but when it does come to content creation around fragrances, a lot of people assume that these people are making a lot of money. I promise you, unless if you're in like the top 1% of the fragrance world when it comes to influencing, you are really not making that much money from it. In fact, you know, some people lose money from it just by buying and over consuming all of these bottles. So please, please, please do not assume that these people are lying to you. You know, sometimes you will find dishonest people, but that's just the world that we live in. There will be people who aren't always honest about their reviews, but you can't stop those people. And this is where sampling comes into play, guys. If you sample the fragrances, you can have a subjective or objective, sorry, like an objective view on that particular perfume and whether you actually enjoy it or not. So anyway, I just thought I would round off the video by saying that. And by the way, I will be doing a couple more videos coming up, so probably around blind buying, which is a very popular topic, and again around influencers being quote-unquote dishonest. So anyway, I hope that you guys had a fantastic time watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe down below, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.